All right, guys, I am on cloud 10. Is there a cloud 10? Because that's where I'm on. I have just sat down with my hero, my idol, my friend. I'm so proud to call her my friend, the one and only Balay Lama, Miss Candy Shaw. So I just feel like I just need to read a few things out because when I was doing my prep for this, it's just actually not shocking, but like shocking. The most powerful and influential woman in the professional beauty industry, described by Modern Salon, the face of our industry, the most recognizable hair color brand. Like, I can't even begin to explain how much I adore her and everything that she stands for and represents in this industry as one, an entrepreneur, two, a woman, three, a hairdresser, like just everything. And she is the person who set that fire. There's a few, but one of the people who set that fire in my heart and in my belly for this industry and showed me the potential that hairdressing could have and the money you could make and the amazing connections and people you meet. And I have some incredible people in my life and friends in my life because of her, and I am so grateful. So today I really wanted to share her story because I'm quite familiar with it, and something that I've learned is all over the world she's known, but not quite to the extent maybe as she is in America and Canada, is where I started. So I wanted to shed a little light on her story because it is quite unique that she actually grew up in the beauty business, and I wanted to talk about if she received some flack for that a bit, and if she's had this incredibly successful company and brand. She has an education company and manufacturer and all these things, and if people were kind of like, oh, like, did you just get that from where the family you came from or from the people you knew? And I think she is a true testament to the fact that it's her idea and her hard work that's gotten her there. And she really talks about how a lot of people said no, which can be shocking when you see this successful brand, this eye-catching, the marketing, everything. Like, I could go on forever about how much I love it and love everything that the brand and her family represent. But I just think I could listen to her all day. She's a wealth of knowledge, so composed, so well spoken. Like, to be like that is just very rare, and really representing our industry and fighting for the next generation of hairdressers who are coming in. And I can't say enough positive things, so I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want you to listen and just take it all in and be in awe and enjoy it. And I'm so grateful for her taking the time to sit down with me and talk to me, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. So, Candy Shaw. Oh, and the lady herself is blowing me a big kiss. Today is the day of all days, people. I am sitting down with my hero, Miss Candy Shaw, the Balay stinking llama.
Hey, 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 hey.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Only you would have props for a for a podcast.
Well, of course. I mean, we got to up our game. I mean, Zoom has gotten sort of a bad rap, right? Everybody's so tired of, oh, can you Zoom? Can you have a meeting? And I say, hey, if you're going to Zoom, let's bring in the props. Let's have fun.
Funny. I've got my sunglasses and my beach ball over there. I should go get it after. We'll do it. We'll do a photo up. I've got all the swag.
Right. Well, to me, it's, I think that, if I think about hairdressing in general, one of the reasons I love it so much is because it's so fun. I don't have the same methodical job that I go to every single day, day in and day out. And now, having spread myself into other areas, it's been so great to just learn this new Zoom and learn the whole digital platform. It's really caused all of us to sort of reinvent ourselves. So kudos to you, my dear, for reinventing yourself and bringing oil to life, because I think it's amazing. People
that's
need
incredible.
to hear
Thank you so much.
And it's great.
it is something that we've had to figure out how to connect. I mean, you're in America and I'm in Australia. It's my morning, and I appreciate you working with the time difference, because we even had daylight savings on Sunday, and I was like, oh crap, it's going to change the time of all my things that I've booked, and figuring it out. But having this digital platform and being able to connect between multiple countries and all of this is really great. So I really just, I know the crazy schedule you must be on, and you yourself trying to figure out how to carry on, and making time for me is just beyond. So I'm so grateful
I
to have you
anybody
here.
hour with Crystal than you, that's for sure.
Thank you so much. Well, how you're a little bit of a different egg than I've had on, because I know a lot of your story, and I've been so lucky to know you. But I would love to kind of just start how I kind of get into every episode, of how you got into hairdressing. Was that something that you always wanted to do? You have a very unique story to most, that you grew up a bit in the salon, didn't you? So I would love to kind of go into that first, just to kind of hear your story.
Well, it's really easy. I'll keep it short and sweet, get into the juicy stuff later. But I'm still behind the chair. That's one thing I'd like to say. So not only did I grow up in a salon, I'm still in it.
Yeah.
My father was a 60-year hairdresser. He was a competition hairdresser and won so many different competitions on back in the days when they would do these crazy, fancy, incredible hair pieces and all these competition types of things. And so when I was a kid, I always tell the story about, I had a learning disability. And so for me, it was very difficult to go to school. It was very difficult for me to do anything other than just see visual. And hairdressing really permeated with me, because it was the first thing I ever really felt like I could do. And I actually could be successful at it. So just giving you the cliff notes, as a child, I used to ride my bicycle every day after school straight to my father's salon, and I would sweep and fold towels and comb hair and learn to wash hair. And then from that point on, I was running the joint. And so it really was just a natural progression of how I felt like my happiness was. Passion for me was just watching my father so happy. He worked with my mother every day. And now I work with my son and my husband every day. And
Isn't
so,
that great? I think about it all the time. Like, if I had to go on the road with my mom every day of my life, it's a very unique, beautiful thing that you have with your family, and it's what makes Sunlight's authentic and genuine and all of these things, and it's just homegrown family business. Are you still in the same salon that your dad had? Because I know it's the same name and these things,
well,
right?
my father started a smaller salon in a neighborhood close to where I grew up. And then we moved to an area in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I reside. And it was an area called Buckhead. And we actually just celebrated our 41st year in that location. So we're 5,000 square feet, 50 chairs, 50-year young family operation. And so it really is kind of crazy when I look back and I think about how many years I've been walking through those same doors. But today I walk through those doors. I put out a really beautiful day of hair, and tonight I haven't cracked open the wine yet because I knew it was your morning and I didn't want to make you jealous.
Hey, I
But
can always go for a wine. Don't have to ask me twice.
here, and I am, I feel very fulfilled. I feel fulfilled because I watch people all day follow their dreams, and I watch, staff grow, and I'm able to keep a pulse on my business, because it's very easy to be an educator and stand on stage and talk about things, but if you're not really out there doing, walking the walk, it's kind of hard to advise the student on the how-tos when you're not even doing them. So I'm really proud of that. A lot of folks ask me, because I'm just celebrating my 40th year in my career.
Wow.
I started cutting hair in the locker room of my high school and trade for math homework. I couldn't do the homework. Like I said, I had a learning disability. So it was easier for me to become an entrepreneur very early on so that I could figure out a way to pass class so that I could get the heck out of school, because all I could think about was not going to college, not going to beauty school, which neither of them I did.
Yeah.
In Georgia, you don't have to go to beauty school, or beauty college, or university. You can actually apprentice. And so I knew that's the path that I wanted. So it was everything I could do to just get out of school and quickly began my hairdressing career. And here I am, 40 years later, still loving it every day.
So incredible. And did you just like, obviously you kind of got to see these competitions and stuff very early in your career. Was that something that spoke to you right away, or you loved being in the salon? Like, or was that something that you saw for yourself right off the bat?
It's funny because if something's in your lap and you don't really know what you're looking at, it's like when you buy a new car and you go out on the road and everybody's driving that car. You never noticed it before.
So true.
So true. And so my whole life, I literally broke bread with all the finest hairdressers to this industry. The people that to me are the real icons.
Totally.
When folks talk about influencers and icons now of somebody who's been in the business 5 years, I just kind of roll my eyes and say, whatever, but I was lucky enough to have some of the greatest influences in my life. My father being number one. My mother was a makeup artist. She was actually his model in those competition days. My uncle was a hairdresser. My aunt was a makeup artist. And any given weekend, our dinner table was filled with people like Vidal Sassoon, Horst Rechelbacher, the Paul Mitchell, John and Susie Chadwick, all these incredible, incredible hairdressers. So I never knew I had that. You know what I'm saying? Like I was just there in the moment and talking the talk and walking the walk, but
they're just your parents' friends when you're a kid. You don't know.
That I was always so intrigued, and my mother used to make me go to bed, she's like, you got to go to bed, and I would sneak down the stairs and sit on the bottom of the stairs so I could listen to them talk, because I was always so enamored by how they were inventing and creating and finding ways to come up with things in business, and things like the foil. Like I watched my father go from, saran wrap and little clips to them starting to doing foil, from perming, from pulling hair through a cap, to the way we went from shampoo and set days to blow drying. I mean, I lived through all those eras of change. Now, when something changes in the hair industry, it's minor. It's a little thing. It's, we're going to go to brunettes this week. Redheads are popular. Okay, extensions are big, but there's no real pivotal changes in our industry that are groundbreaking until balayage hit it, and so it was just, business as usual. So how did I feel in those times? I can't really honestly say I knew what I had.
It was just normal. Yeah.
But I look back that I think more people need to learn about their forefathers and mothers who paved the way for each and every one of us. Great people like Leo Passage, amazing people who created curriculums and things out there that none of us really knew how we got to or to it. What I did know is, for me, I wanted to always not necessarily be better than my father or be better than those people, but to honor them and to always do my very best to be the best I could possibly be, and to take those messages and those wisdoms and those nuggets of wisdom and take them into the next generation and the generations to follow, so that they wouldn't forget it. Yeah. So that's kind of been my mission. I'm now reaching back and really pulling back some of the old school thought processes so that people really know how things were created and why.
Yeah, and I think that must be something that obviously led to you creating your own product and your own company, because you were hearing these conversations of people having an idea and then seeing it be followed through, kind of. Whereas for maybe when I came in, I'm learning, I'm in hair school, I have my books, but there was no thought of, for me, who wrote this book? Who came up with this? Whereas you might have had a little bit of more of an forefront experience to that. Do you think that that is what helped to come up with it a bit, or it was just you, like?
Well, absolutely. I think if I look back, that probably gave me some more confidence.
Yeah.
I think what I would say to your listeners right now is that everything you ever wanted to do in life is contingent on your relationships.
Yeah.
It's your relationships with people that can make or break whether your idea is going to come to fruition. And I think that I had built really great relationships, and so had my father. And so therefore I wasn't as scared to step out, and do something, for fear I'd fall on my face. Because if you don't think I feared falling on my face, I mean, I there were times I was in the fetal position, crying myself to sleep. What have I done? But I think that what I did know is that I always had people out there that had my back. And I had always managed my career with incredible integrity and grace. And, I always said that, popular decisions aren't always right, and right decisions aren't always popular. And I knew I had a right decision to make. And, it might not have been the most popular at the moment, when it comes to building a brand. But I think the reality was, for me, I knew those relationships were there for me to fall back on. And I knew that the things, the wisdom that I had of my dad's mistakes, and some of the mistakes that I had seen, like when Horst, for instance, started AVEDA, or when Paul Mitchell was starting, obviously the Paul Mitchell brand, or just folks that I've known throughout my career that started brands. I had seen a lot. I'd seen a lot of good, bad, and ugly, but I knew that I couldn't just rest on my morals and think, well, they failed, or that failed, or that got so big, there's no way I can compete.
That's exactly where my head goes, and what I've thought many times, being like, I teach your curriculum, I worship your curriculum. I think it is so, it's the first thing that ever clicked in my head, like 100%. I've been hairdressing, I was learning foils, I was on the floor doing that, and I could do it, and people were happy, but it didn't make sense to me. And then I took your class, and I went to Atlanta, and I was there for 3 days, and it clicked. It all made sense. And I was like, I'm like, she's done it now. So where's room for us to come up with it? Like, how am I going to come up with something different? I think that's the really hard thing, and something I have been talking to people on this show and friends of mine who do Educate, and I'm like, how do you keep it original, or how do you come up with this that it is unique when it's a lot of it's been done? Like, how does that happen?
You first got to get the snakes out of your head, because the devil's on your shoulder at all times, and he's always going to be there telling you can't, you won't be good enough, it won't be fast enough, it won't be cool enough. And I had to get the devil out of my head. I mean, when I started this brand, I had a great idea, and I already was kind of bootlegging it. I was already had my academy. I was already teaching French cutting. I was already teaching balayage, but I didn't have a product, and I was sort of bootlegging, getting a bag and putting in my favorites. It's just sort of like my version of a Birchbox. I would just get my little bag and put in whatever, and give it to my student and say, go home, you can do this, I promise you can do it. And obviously that kept going and going, and then my resources ran out, and certain things that I couldn't get anymore, and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I've got to figure out a way. This is a big deal. So I flew to LA, and I met with some big suits, as I call them, the suits that all sit at the board tables, and they're all ready.
Who are not hairdressers.
No, clearly. And I said, hey, I've got this great idea. I'd already built the brand. I knew how it walked, how it talked. I had prototypes. I had the color picked out. I had everything ready. And I went and I said, hey, look, I really want you to sort of buy into this. Help me do this. This would be amazing. You already have all this intellectual property. You've got all these people, these resources. I'm just Candy, I'm just one little girl over here, with a dream. And they looked at me and they said, Candy, we really love your passion. We really think you're great. But balayage in our eyes is just a trend. It's going to go away. It's going to go away. And I said, no, it's not. This is the little black dress. This is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Because I had been with my father and those folks, and I had watched foil take on the world, and I had watched women take their hair out of rollers and start using blow dryers. I had seen long barbering scissors go to short scissors. I had seen people take guards off clippers and not barber, do clipper over comb. Things had changed in my own life.
Yeah.
And I knew balayage was perfectly positioned to change the trajectory of hairdressers. So guess what? I got turned down, and I got turned down in a big way.
Yeah.
And when I got in the car to go back to the airport to fly home, I looked at my son and I said, because he was with me, and I said, screw this. I'm going to do it myself. Because even if I fail, and even if I fall on my own, face, going public with it, it'll at least survive in my academy and in my own salon.
Fair enough. Totally. Yes.
Yeah. So for an initial investment, I'll get that money back and I'll just use it up in my own salon, and that's really why I did it, is because I had that to fall back on, my own salon. I thought, okay, I put $50,000 of my own money. I put it all together. I went to research and development. I worked with a chemist for 2 years, and I knew that I was from Georgia.
And it took that long. It took 2 years going back and forth with it all. That's so interesting. Yeah. I love knowing all these things. I was talking to someone who built a salon, and he's like, it took 18 months. And I'm like, what did you do for 18 months while you were waiting? Like, you don't realize the financial aspect. So I really appreciate you sharing that, the actual money you put into it and the time that it took. Were you using a balayage lightener before you came up with Sunlights? Like, there was a clay lightener you were using and it wasn't giving you the results, or not?
There was not a clay lightener. I was the first market. I want to make sure everybody knows that.
It was me.
There was no clay lightener. There was a lightener that I was getting out of Europe. Obviously, balayage was big. It was no secret. I didn't invent balayage. I just took balayage and Americanized it. Took it from where it was just kind of a little bit of a service over here that really didn't have a curriculum. People were just freehand painting. And if you were good enough to do that, great. But, not to get into the fundamentals of why a foil lightener versus a balayage lightener, but just to make something very easy and clear, when I ran out of this product, because it dried up and the company dried up, no pun intended, I said to myself, you know what? I'm from Georgia. The natural resource here is clay. I really think that if I put some clay in lightener, it would adhere to the outside of the hair and it would harden, and then it would lift in the middle because it would stay moist. So it was just like when I was a little girl and I would go down to the lake and the sun would beat down on the red Georgia clay around the water, and I would step my foot in and the top layer would be hard, like when you dip a strawberry in chocolate, and then you just go right in and you ooze into the softness. And I was like, maybe I could try this. Let me try this clay. And I knew they had used clay in skincare. Clay is also used for the glossiness of magazine covers. And it's also used in china, and meaning porcelains, china, plates, bowls, serving pieces. And so I thought, I'm going to try this, and I want to see what this is like. And so I started playing around, and needless to say, the rest is history. There's now a kaolin shortage in North America because every manufacturer known to man is putting clay in lightener, which, hey, right there, somebody could say to you, well, don't you feel defeated?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like they copied you? Well, sure, they did. And isn't that flattering that they copied you? Well, some days I feel like it is, and other days it pisses me off, you know? Let's face it. I mean, I'm a competitor. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't go at this just to sort of sit back and give all my ideas away and let somebody, you know, steal my curriculum and run off with it. Of course, no one wants to do that. But I know that there's market share for everybody out there, because if that wasn't true, think about how many different car companies are out there, or how many different vodkas are on the shelf. If you
Yeah.
walk into the liquor store, you know, there's a million different, you know, bottles of wine, whatever, you know. So for me, when I hit the home run, I knew, and no one had ever gone after the lightener market. You know, it was always a color line. You
Yeah.
know, was color line, and then the lightener was like the caboose on the train.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
and so I thought, you know, I'm going to make lightener sexy because I'm a woman, and I'm going to figure out a way to make balayage and lightener and curriculum and education and everything that goes around it really sexy. I know that sounds crazy, but in the moment, like when I would go to hair shows, everybody had a bag, right? And every hair show, they would get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh my God. It'd be on the floor, drag. You couldn't even hold it.
Yeah, now you can put people in the bags.
I reckon I was in one at one point.
And so I said, wait a minute. No, no, no. I'm going to put this in a box. You know, I'm going to make this, put it in a box. I'm going to put a class in the box. And at the time, everything that was trending was the independent contractor. So for your listeners out there that went out on their own or rent their own chair, or, you know, or you know, uno a mano, you know, a single station, it, as an educator, immediately I thought to myself, the one thing that a hairdresser walks away from when they're in a team environment and goes on their own is really great education.
Totally.
And they're not going to be able to afford it at my level. Okay, I'm not trying to be braggy, but I mean, they're not going to run off and take Sharon Blaine's boot camp, right? Because they can't afford it. And, but if we could create a box that could help them, that it was just a plug and play. So it was like I'll give you the printer if you'll just order the ink, you know, the printer cartridge thought from Hewlett Packard, you know. And so I'll create this box that's got great education in it, that's got amazing ways to do it, and all the tools that you need, and simplify it. Remember, I had a learning disability. So for me, I would go to class sometimes, and I mean, I was so lost after 20 minutes in it. You know, I'm sitting there like, what?
Even
you know,
hair school, like even hair classes is what you're referring to.
right.
Yeah.
Hair classes, things, you know, you go and someone's getting up there and they're telling you all these ways that they did all these techniques and these things. And I'm just like, can you just make it easy enough for me to understand so I can go back tomorrow to my 10 o'clock guest and do it? Because this is so over my head.
Yeah.
In a way, and I'm not saying anything negative to education. It was
Yeah.
just, I was trying to think like a hairdresser and make it fun.
Yeah.
And so that's the birth of Sunlights. And, you know, the color yellow comes from, obviously.
You just stole the words out of my mouth. I think that it is so, I mean, I've obviously put my yellow on today. It is something that once you are immersed in the Sunlight's world and everything, it's like cult's not the right word, but it's just this thing that you see yellow. I have to have that. It's yellow. Oh my God, those yellow shoes, that yellow bag, I have to have. It's like this yellow thing that comes over you, and you, like in our Sunlights group, how many times are people just posting yellow things that they see, like or llama, or how did you
diamond and the yellow Ferrari? I just haven't gotten it yet. No, just kidding. But true, it's true. And I like to think of, and I, you know, in all seriousness, you know, when people ask me about building a brand and how did you choose yellow, like you own it, I said, well, first of all, yellow to me was the color of joy, right? And And sunlights, the sun, when I was a little girl, the very first thing I would do is take a piece of paper and draw the sun in the right-hand corner and put the little rays of sun. And then I would draw my house with the tree and the swing and the little stick figures. And, you know, and to me, there's not a person on earth that doesn't love how the sun feels. There's no one that doesn't love what a warm, cozy sun feels like. And so for me, I thought, this is perfect. This is a perfect marriage of taking a color and creating that mindset of every time I see yellow, I smile, and every time I see yellow, I feel warm. I feel alive. I feel like a family, you know. And that's what Sunlights was to me. It was just, if I could create that it just brought in the heartbeat of the brand.
And it's so noticeable. Like when you go to the hair shows, exactly what you said, there's a million booths, especially in America, you know, or in the bigger shows, and all you see yellow walking around. Everybody knew I wore this sweater, my one and only yellow sweater, and everybody knew that I worked for Sunlights, and everybody could see the yellow booth. There's you don't need to know the booth number, the yellow booth. That's it. There's no other one. And it's just, oh, it just gives me joy.
Now, obviously, my academy and my salon color is a royal blue because I'm a French cutter. So the French flag, you know, has the royal blue. So my academy, you know, was blue. And now I have created Moonlights, which is Sunlight's brother, you know, to foil highlighting. And it's the first foil lightener with kaolin in it. Took a long time testing that and getting that going. But look, I gotta say, I want to dial it back for a minute. I mean, so much of what has happened in my life has just been authentic and organic. And I know people use that word, they overuse that word. It's like when somebody tells me, what's going to be the new normal since we've had COVID? I'm like,
have you pivoted?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, quit saying new normal, because it's never, there's not, you know, that's not what we are. But I think what I want to say to folks is, you know, if you have an idea and you really believe in it, you owe it to yourself to fail and to get out there and to try, you know. And I like to say I stand on the foundation of all the bricks that were thrown at me. I have been told no. As a matter of fact, if you haven't told me no, then you're not really my friend, because I have been told no by everybody, and that's okay. So I say to your listeners out there, don't be defeated. If you think opening a salon is your dream, if you think becoming a podcaster or you know, doing something or writing a blog is your dream, if your dream is to work on a stage, if your dream is to do photo shoots, if your dream is to become an educator or create a product, you know, you just have to have grit, and you have to be able to take no and realize that no does not mean never.
Yeah.
You know, no just might mean not right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no means maybe to me, you know, because a no isn't always a hard no.
Yeah.
And, you know, and to try that, you owe it to yourself to do it. And I knew that I really, and when I tell you, I probably had a 60-40 chance of failure. I really did. I mean, 40% of it was going to be eaten up by my own salon and my own academy and my own relationships and my friends.
Yeah.
But I had to stick my neck out the other 60%. And, you know, to be honest, every single thing that has been developed with Sunlight since then has simply been need-based.
Yeah.
Right? It's just need-based. You know, it's creating hero products that are in need. And I think like a hairdresser.
Yeah.
I don't think like a manufacturer, because I am a hairdresser. So for me, I know what I like and I don't like. And no one is loyal to any one thing anymore. Let's face it. Everybody's got in their kits a little of this and a little of that, because you find the heroes and you stick with your heroes. And
Which
so
is
for me,
what makes Sunlight's the perfect product. And what I try to get out here and say is that it is this hero product. You can be loyal to your product company, and what you need is the powder. You use your developer that you already have, you use your toner. There isn't an option. There's no Sunlight's demi for me to tone my balayage with, that half the time I don't need to tone anyway. But you know, it's true. Like, that's the point, is you're not trying to take over somebody's entire business that with a salon. All you're doing is inserting something that half the time they don't even have, or they have that they don't use. It just sits there collecting dust because it doesn't even work.
well, it's really interesting that you say that. One of the things that we say to distributors is that we're like a Trojan horse. You know, we get your foot in the door of a lot of accounts just because of the power of this powder, you know, and that, and the curriculum and all the reputation that backs just a product. Now, granted, we have wet line now, and obviously I've sold scissors for years, French cutting scissors, which are really different than the regular conventional scissor. You know, I've spent my lifetime building a huge curriculum, and you know, many times, I mean, when COVID happened, I gave it away. I mean, I opened up my library of every video and everything I'd ever created because I wanted to help hairdressers. And I think that, you know, and this is no me dishing on manufacturers, because I really applaud some of the incredible product lines that are out there. But what makes me different is I'm not a manufacturer that went out and found an educator to teach on behalf of something that we made. I'm an educator that created a product. You know, I'm an education company. I'm not just a manufacturer. And so that's what really people need, is mentorship and coaching. And, you know, one of the things that I love about our relationship, Crystal, is that, you know, the minute I met you, you worked for a friend of mine in Canada. I knew, you know, we were fast friends in that instance. And then, you know, that connection between my education, my mentorship, my coaching to you, which led you over to Oz, obviously, has stayed connected. And, you know, I'm really proud that I can stay connected with hairdressers regardless. Some of my dearest friends teach for other brands, you know, use different everythings. And that's what, you know, that's what I think manufacturers need to understand, is that, you know, you can buy up an influencer and you can go over here and think that's really going to push your product. But I think what really pushes things is relationships.
Totally.
And you know, if I endorse you as a human being to a guest or to a client, that's what it's all about. And we have to protect each other, and we got to have each other's backs constantly, and we got to share. You know, we got to give with our hands down, not with our hands up. You know, so many want to just give something, but they're like, what's in it for me? You know, what's in it for me? And I said, I don't ever think that way. Like, I didn't create a brand thinking I was going to make all this money. I was going to, you know, make all this wealth. I was just going to be all this wonderfulness. I mean, the minute you start believing your own BS, that you're great and you've won awards, and is the minute you die in my book. Really.
I've got a question for you. So,
okay,
when you came up with this product and the company and all of these things, did you find that people were like not giving you the credit because you grew up with these people and saying like, oh, well, that's great that Candy came up with this product line and it's amazing and it's had success, but how can I do it? I don't know Vidal Sassoon, and I don't have a foot in the door with people who say Paul Mitchell, and they could help her. They invented a product line, and that's how, like, what do you say to that, to the people who don't have that leg up maybe that you had? Or
well, look, I mean, that's a very good way of looking at, or wait, let me back up. That's a way that you could really go down a wrong road of looking at your life. All my life, I was introduced as Jamison Shaw's daughter, Candy. You know, my dad was like E.F. Hutton, and your folks over in Melbourne and over in Australia are not going to know who that is, but there was a commercial that came out, and the tagline was, "When E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens." And so my father was the E.F. Hutton of hairdressers.
Yeah.
When he spoke, they listened, because he was a forefather of so many incredible ideas back in the day. And so my whole life I was introduced as that. That was a hell of a lot to live up to, you know, Jamison Shaw's daughter. Well, what really hit me one day is right when I got Sunlights going, all of a sudden he became Candy Shaw's father, you know, and that was like mind blown, because all my life I was always in his shadow, you know, and now I was on the front of the stage and he was in mine. Now, my father is my biggest cheerleader. I speak to my dad, he's 85 years old, almost every day. And he is my biggest cheerleader, my biggest endorser.
That's amazing. I actually talked to Stevie English the other night, and he was talking about his dad. He's like, my dad's my biggest cheer man.
Yeah,
so he's your cheer man.
Yeah, I love it. But I will tell you, you know, I had a lot to prove. Not when Sunlights came around, though. I think at that point I had proved enough in my own academy, and I had, you know, quote unquote, you know, been on some, you know, in some particular places that I had gone, from boards to, you know, being involved. And so when Sunlights came around, I didn't really have to prove that.
Yeah.
But when I was in my salon life working, oh, you better believe it. I worked longer hours than everybody. I came late, left late. I mean, I came early.
Came early. You came late, you'd be in trouble.
You know, my dad used to joke that, hey, I give you a half a day off Christmas. What else do you want? You know, but the reality is, in the salon life, it was very, very tough. And when I took over the business, I bought the business from my father. And this is one thing I knew. I said, no, you're not going to give me any handouts.
Yep.
I hired my lawyers. He hired his lawyers, accountants. We sat down. We had a complete deal, because I didn't want anybody ever to come back to me 10 years from now, whether it be a family member or someone saying, well, I mean, you know.
Well, that's exactly why I wanted to ask the question, because I think that it could go that way for people, and people sometimes don't celebrate when they should, you know, and I think that that's something I wanted to make clear on this and get that from you. Yeah.
So anyway, I bought it from him, and that way there was never ever that level of, oh, well, you know, you got it handed down to you.
Yeah.
No, I worked my, you know, booty off for it, and gave everything I had to it, and, you know, was managing it before I bought it from my dad, and grew it 3 times the size once I bought it from him. So, you know, but I didn't do that alone. You know, I did that with my family and my great team, and I'm really proud of the team I've created. And I think that, you know, right now our industry is in a lot of trouble. You know, we're in a lot of trouble. I mean, people aren't going to beauty school. They don't want to be hairdressers. You know, it's not nearly as great of a skill that it used to be. I was saying to you before we jumped on this call, you know, I'm on a board for Beauty Changes Lives, which is a nonprofit who's really trying to come up with this campaign called Make Your Mark, and really try to encourage these young kids to get involved and go follow their passions and their dreams, and go to, you know, the beauty universities again. And so, just like I was saying about making Sunlight sexy, I mean, we've got to make hairdressing sexy again, because it's gotten so dumbed down. It's really sad, and I'm really concerned, because I'm fortunate in Georgia. You don't have to go to beauty school.
Okay.
You can apprentice. So I attract people because I'm an educator. So I don't necessarily have as much of the issue of hiring as a lot of others.
Of a shortage.
Because I'm an educator. But if I wasn't, I'm telling you, I mean, we're all fighting for the same pool of people.
Yeah.
And it's tough. You know, and if you had multiple locations, it would be really tough.
Yeah.
You know, in my...
Well, that's exactly what I wanted. And I really wanted to talk to you about Beauty Changes Lives and all those things, because I talked to my friend Carol recently, and she is someone I worked with at the salon that I came from. She's been hairdressing for 42 years as well. And it struck a chord with me what she was saying, that she goes now to career days at high schools and brings a whole troupe of artists, so musicians. They're like, people see musicians but don't know how they make a living. Like, you are incredibly good at art, but you're like, I can't be an artist, I'm not going to make any money. And same with hairdressing. And she goes in and gives her time and sheds a light on how this is the most incredible career and rewarding and profitable if you do it right, or all those things. And I think what you do and the presence that you have, and I have all these things of titles that you have: most powerful influential woman in the professional beauty industry, face of our industry. It's true. Like, the fact that there's someone like you who is worried about that, or who does want to make a difference and make this a career that draws people in, is so important. And I that's what I want to be doing, is really shouting like, this is amazing, like, watch this show and listen to me and my friends and all these people who have had the most incredible lives and traveled the world and been successful as hairdressers. Like, what more? Like, it's just, I think it's so important.
Hey, he used to say to people, the beauty business is so amazing. I don't know why everybody's not in it, and that's so true. And actually, when I was a young girl, I was a cheerleader, right? So all my girlfriends, Friday night we would cheer, and on Saturday morning I would wake up and
so American.
And I would be stepping over them to go to work, because I had a job at a young age. And my dad used to say to my cheerleading girlfriends, you guys ought to become hairdressers. You ought to become hairdressers. And I'm still friends with all those girls.
Yeah.
And they giggle now. They're like, why in the heck didn't we listen to your dad? Why did
Which is so different to have a parent saying sometimes, be a hairdresser, because a lot of the times it's the opposite of, oh shit. I remember my granny being like, so what are you gonna do after that? Or like, when are you gonna get a real job? Like, this is the job. What do you mean? I just went to college. I've been an apprentice for 2 years. Like, I want to change that, and I value and respect so much that that's your vision too, and it's always struck a chord with me.
I've been known to take W-2 forms, right, and white out the name and just show the amount of money that a stylist makes for me, and send them home to daddy and to mama. Because I'll get these kids, they'll come into my office and they'll be crying, I want to be a hairdresser, but my mom and dad think it's a terrible idea. They think I'm a loser. My dad wants me to go to college and get a real job. And I said, okay, but I really love it and I really want to do this. And I, white out the little thing. I go take this to daddy and show him this. This is a 26-year-old girl that fits the same, protocol as what you are. And you tell him that I said, if he wants to talk more about it, to come and see me, because obviously, fear is lack of knowledge, right? So fear is lack of knowledge. And so many parents don't know. But I got to say something to my hairdressing community out there. Part of this is our fault. Why? Because many folks out there, take the money under the table, don't report their tips correctly, don't, you're in a position in Australia, you get paid, but you get paid, where I am,
hourly,
you get a commission. So a lot of what has happened is there have been folks that have hurt our industry for sort of cheating the system. And so now when you're reporting, your income, and you Google that, go Google it. Go Google how much does a hairdresser make, and see what the
your eyes will fall out of your head.
If I was a mother and I Googled it, I would say to my daughter, no way in heck are you going to go be a hairdresser. Hairdressers don't make any money. They're just right. They're like beauticians. And I was telling you earlier, I mean, we have a 6-figure club in my salon. And
I was just going to bring this up.
And so 13 of our staff, made it into the 6-figure club. And, you know, that's, we've got some powerhouses. I mean, they make more than doctors and lawyers. I mean, sometimes when I go meet with an accountant or my attorney or somebody, and I, you know, and they see these numbers, they're like, wait a minute, this, yeah, hairdresser?
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, you
I'll tell
ding.
you, that was the turning point. The one turning point I had was I always wanted to be a hairdresser, and I only saw it as, say, working in a shopping center, or, you know, not, I didn't see it profitable. And then I started going to this girl who worked from home with my mom, and she had a basement set up, and it's not what I wanted for myself, but what I could see was she was making $100 an hour. She was doing my hair, my mom's hair, the lady beside me's hair. We all were giving her $100. And I was like, $100 an hour? That's what a doctor, like, I'm not going to be a doctor. But that was the moment. That was one. And that's how I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to hair school. And the second one was being at your weekend away and sitting there and talking about the 6-figure weekend. And I was like, because $100 an hour didn't add up to me in what a yearly salary kind of was, you know. I didn't think about it that way. But when I met your staff and when I met you, that number has never left my head, and that incentive has never left for me, being like, why can't I be making that money? And when I moved here, or when anywhere, any salons that I've gone to or anything, it makes me like shaky. Like, how can I go from, say, 6 figures, where I was very, very close to when I left, to coming here and going in on an introductory salary that there's not much wiggle room of almost half sometimes? Like, how is that possible? And you put that work ethic in me, that I wasn't going to stop doing clients until I hit that number, because I knew it was possible, because I saw your staff doing it.
Yeah. And you were talking about the weekend, you know, they win a huge trip, and, you know, we do all kinds of celebrating. And I truly believe that what gets rewarded gets repeated.
Yeah.
And so we spend a lot of time cheerleading and you know, applauding those types of things, because I am a team salon. You know, obviously there's plenty of people that want to go out on their own and be an entrepreneur. It's not for me. You know, I like feeding off other people's energies. I like to look at other people's shapes and their paints and their foils or their whatever they're doing, and feed off that education. You know, so you make that choice. I mean, and I try so hard in our industry right now, you know, because I'm an educator. You know, I'm an educator first, right? That's really where my heart and soul is. Obviously, I own a salon, and I have created a manufacturing brand. But for me, I just want to encourage more, you know, more people to follow their dreams. Like, I have an educator that works for me that went to beauty school at 50.
50?
You know, 50 old. Maria.
Yeah.
Went to beauty school at 50 years old. Why? Because she had a son that got a spinal cord injury, and she realized that she needed a flexible job. She was in banking. She always loved hair. She went to beauty school at 50. She flew through it, needless to say, because she was, you know, disciplined, and so that she could work from home, so she could take care of her quadriplegic son, who she wouldn't have been able to do banking or doing any other job, and is very successful at it. So I think you just have to find, you know, what makes you tick. And there's all kinds of opportunities in hairdressing. It's not, you know, you can have a lot of a little of everything, you know. And so if you're not happy where you are, you got to get happy. You know, you got to work in a place that makes you happy, that fulfills you, that makes you excited to get up and go to work to. You know, because creativity doesn't breed in a negative environment.
Genius.
Yeah.
Oh,
So.
I just could talk to you forever, but I think that this has been so valuable. Like, I know you could go in a million ways and we could talk about a million things, but I think what I really wanted to get across, we've covered. And I just think that you, are the most poised, like everything. You're just so composed and can talk, and what you say, people want to listen, and it has meaning. And I just appreciate so much you taking the time to sit and talk with me for, you know.
Well, So cute when you sent me the email and you said, "Oh, will you come on my show?" I'm like, "Right, Crystal, you even have to ask me that question." Number one, I would have done it anyway, even if you weren't Crystal, because I obviously have a relationship with you, but I would do it for anybody. I mean, I do it for beauty schools all the time. I give constantly of my craft and my passion for this craft, and I'll help anybody have a leg up. I think that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I think it's important that people always remain a student. I go to work a student every day. And I always say this in my classroom, and that is that when you're green, you will grow. And when you think you're ripe, you will rot. Yeah. And so I say to your listeners out there, you need to listen to all different perspectives. And more importantly, you need to follow your dream, and it's never too late. I started Sunlights at 50. Colonel Sanders started Kentucky Fried Chicken at 65. So it's never too late to do it.
Some goosebumps.
Yeah, and just get that little devil off your shoulder and go for it. And what's the worst thing that can happen to you? You just learn from your mistakes. And yep. I always say, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. And there's always a lesson there. So thank you for allowing me to teach a bit about my lessons and to share with your listeners how important it is to always pay it forward.
Incredible. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. I started off with a mustache.
Yeah, well, I reckon I have a mustache too, because the beauty salons haven't been open for 6 months. So thanks for that. We've just balanced each other out.
It's quarantine 15 and everything in between is what I say.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Congratulations, and I'll see you soon, I hope.
I hope so too. Thank you.